Hi and welcome to another Type With Me. In today's episode I want to talk about Object.hasOwn and I want to show you what it can do with your code. So imagine we have here a const entity and it accepts an age, right? And that entity can have a prototype where we put the .name onto it, and then we say we want to use type with me, right? And then of course we can do a new entity 5, and with the in operator we can ask if p1, which is this object, has an age property, right? And this is very important because this is also true. It has a name, but of course it's because of it has a prototype.name, and it doesn't really have a name, and that's something we can maybe do right here. When I do .name, for example, and I save it. You see here that you have type with me, right? And yeah, we just add .name with the prototype. And it's not that P1 has really name, it bidirectionally has name, right? I think if I do now here .name equals new, I guess we are overriding that because now it has new, right? Okay. So now I want to check if p1.hasOwnProperty age and then p1.hasOwnProperty name are true. You will see here that, of course, I need to save it. The last one is false and the first one is true. And why is that? Because, of course, entity.prototype.name refers to the entity class, right? And not to the object itself. If we now do something like this, p1.name equals new. If I now execute it, you will see that we get true, true, new, and then true, true, because now it really is a property of its own and not of the class, right? It's a little bit confusing, but that's the whole point of this, right? So something new that's been arrived within ECMAScript 2022 is the Object.hasOwn. It's not hasOwnProperty, but just hasOwn. If we now execute this, so we got an error here, and that's because it's very new. I'm gonna show it to you right away into the browser where we have access to that environment to show you properly what it will do. But for now, I also want to show you something else. If we do now this object.create new and then hasOwnProperty name, what will be the case? Yeah, true. It will crash, right? Say, hey, hasOwnProperty is not a function on object.create. So if you're now going to take a look at object.hasOwn, then you will see here the object.hasOwn static method returns true if the specified object has the indicated property as its own property. If the property is inherited or does not exist, the method returns false. And then you see here that it's going to replace hasOwnProperty, right? Then here we have an example, for example, object1 prop exists. Then here we ask if the prop exists, if the toString exists. The string doesn't exist there. So hasOwn undeclared property file also doesn't exist. Because of course this one, why is it false? Well, it's false because it's not on the object itself. Of course, what you could do, here is object1 to string, and of course I need to do something like this, console.log. Also here console.log, run, and then you see here that we get an object, right? Now if I'm going for our example right away, we have here our entity, then of course I have something like this. What I want to do right now is do something like this, console.log, and then I want to do p1.hasOwn h name, and what I want to do is something like this, right? I want to show you also that that is something that you could do. I'm gonna do hasOwn, and then we see here that that's not a function, so what we need to do is do object comma p1, and here also object p1. Probably that's also the case why it was failing. So here we have true and then we have false. Same kind of behavior that we had with the hasOwn property, right? Okay, so you can already use that also within Dino if you do Object.hasOwn. So it's important to use Object.hasOwn. If you do p1.hasOwn, then that will not work. But when we do Object.hasOwn, you can very easily create that. One of the things that I want to show you as well is if we do this and then we do name, something like that. I'm gonna execute it, then you see that we got true, and then of course can just make it a little bit bigger. If you do object.create and then use that, what would it be? I'm asking you, what would it be? Well, it would be false, and that's strange, right? Because when we do just without the create, we get true, and otherwise we get a false. So here we see that creates an object that has the specified prototype or that has null prototype. So what it will do, it will just create an object with dot prototype dot name equals hello, right? And like we saw before, that will give you a false instead of a true. So that's something that you need to take into account. These are these caveats that can take or come around with these stuff. I don't know if you're really gonna use that, but it's always nice to just explore things. Also, the N operator is, in my opinion, a very powerful one to use. Also, if you want to iterate over your properties, you can very easily do that with a for loop as well. If we do, for example, this for p1 for const prop in p1, and then we do console.log prop we get age and name. So these are things that are very nice and easy to play around with, and makes your broader knowledge of JavaScript richer, right? So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked it. We saw how to use the in operator. We saw how to use the hasOwnProperty operator, and then we saw that we could not use .hasOwn on p1.hasOwn, but we could use p1.hasOwnProperty, right? And then we looked into the explanation on the Mozilla website. Thank you for watching. See you next time.